So good evening to everyone. So today's topic is sustainability. So what is sustainability? So sustainability means it is meeting our own needs without compromising the ability of future generations. That is to meet their own needs, right? So in addition, that is to natural resources. Is that natural resources. Right? So we also need social and economic resources also. Social and economic. Right? So natural, social, and economic resources. So sustainability is not just environmentalism, right? So it is embedded in most definition of sustainability. We also find concern for social equity and economic development, right? So where does the term come from? So while the concept of this sustainability is, it is a relatively new idea, right? So the movement as a whole has roots in social justice and conservationism and internationalism and also other past movements with rich histories, right? So by the end of the 20th century, right? Of the 20th centuries, so many of these ideas had come together in the call for sustainable development. What is that? Sustainable is sustainable development. Right? So in the year of 1983, just wait. '83, the United Nations, United Nations tapped former Norwegian Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland. So is to run the New World Commission on Environment and Development. So after decades of efforts to raise living standards through industrialization, and many countries were still dealing with extreme poverty. And also it seemed that economic development at the cost of ecological health and social equity did not lead to long-lasting prosperity. So, and also it was clear that the world needed to find a way, that is to harmonize ecology with prosperity. So after 4 years, this Brundtland Commission so released final report. So that is our common future, right? So that is the report name is Our Common Future. So it famously defines sustainable development as, let me see here. Development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, right? So the Commission successfully unified environmentalism with social and economic concerns on the World Development Agenda. Right? Right? So the sustainable development is defined as, what is that? Development, right? Development. Development. So that meets the needs of present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs, right? So in common man language, there must be balance between present development and environment, right? So present development must not degrade or causes the depletion of environment, right? So what is the origin of the concept of this sustainable development? So that means we see one by one. So first one is sustainable development was broadly discussed in Brundtland Commission report, right? So in which it was stated that development must not price off environmental issue, right? And also second one is later is sustainable development was also discussed in Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit. So Rio Earth Summit, I already told about this Rio Earth Summit. So in the year 1992 under Agenda 21 of this conference, right? So and what is the major principle of this sustainable development? So that is so first one is intergeneration equity principle, right? So that is according to this principle, it is right of every generation to get benefit from natural resources, right? And second one is precautionary principle in. So this is, it is short, it is abbreviated as PP, right? Precautionary principle, right? So the concept of this precautionary principle is covered under the concept of this sustainable development. So this is globally recognized principle, right? So this precautionary principle states that if there is a risk of severe damage to the environment, but there is absence of scientific or conclusion evidence cannot be ground for inaction, right? So, so it is a tool for making better environment, right? What is that? Making better environment. So this precautionary principle is based on the concept of it is better to safe than sorry. Better to safe than sorry. And this principle is opposed to traditional approach of wait and watch. Right? Wait and watch. So which was generally followed from the centuries in case of environment, right? So the Parliamentary Earth Summit of United Nations Conference on Environment and Development in Dalai Lama stated that Tibet may be first country in which principle of precautionary principle that is originated, because even in 17th century, right? 17th century. So the Tibet started to take provocative measures to save the environment, right? And second principle is polluter pays principle, right? Polluter pays principle. So this principle is also covered the concept of sustainable development, right? So the polluter based principle is one of the most globally recognized principle of the environmental law. So the polluter based principle states that those who produce the pollution should bear the costs of managing it to prevent damage to human health or environment. Right? So, for example, example, a factor. So a factor that produces a potentially poisonous substances as a byproduct of its activities. So that is usually help responsible for its safe disposal, right? So that polluter pays principle, it was first referred at the international level explicitly in the year of 1972 in a council recommendation on guiding principle concerning the international economic aspects of environment policies, right? So the polluter pays principle is one of the principle of Rio, this is the Earth Summit, right? So the Rio Declaration in the year of 1992, in which how many states? 153 states were signatories of this Rio Declaration, right? So the polluter pays principle is legally well recognized both international and domestically, but that recognition is very weak. It needs reformation it must be recognized strongly and enforced both at national and international level, right? So, in landmark cases of sustainability. So, what are the landmark cases? So, landmark cases of sustainable development. So, first is it is rural litigation and entitlement Kendra. So that is in the Dehradun versus state of Dehradun versus state of Uttar Pradesh, UP, right? So the bench of Justice P.N. Bhagavati and Ranganath Mishra, these are introduced the concept of this sustainable development and NGO named RLEK. It is filed a case against limestone quarrying in the valley in the year of 1987. So it was started that the permanent assets of mankind are not to be exhausted in one generation. So the natural sources should be used with the requisite attention, and it cares so that ecology and environment may not be affected in any serious ways, right? So, and second one is, so Vellore Citizen Welfare Forum versus Union Bank of India. So it was landmark judgment on concept of sustainable development with other principle was recognized, right? So in this Supreme Court directed to stop discharging pollutants in Palar. Is that Palar? Palar, Palar. So this is in the Tamil Nadu. It is located in Tamil Nadu because this Palar river was major source of water to its surrounding people, right? So in this case, the Supreme Court emphasized on maintaining the relationship between environment and development, right? Environment and development, right? So what is the concept? The concept of sustainable development is the result of, what is that? Growing awareness of the global links between mounting environment problems, social and economic issues to do with poverty and inequality in concern about the healthy future for, what is that? Humanity, right? So more than 100 of the world's largest companies in mining industry in oil and gas refineries, and also manufacture of autos and chemicals and also cement and electricity generation, drugs, and biotechnology services. So such as banking and finance. Those are members of the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, that is called WBCSD, that is 2001, right? So the many environmental protection organizations, including multinational organizations like WWF. So this is not World Wrestling Federation, Worldwide Fund for Nature, right? Worldwide Fund. So the Greenpeace are committed to sustainable development, although they are critical of companies who are members of this WBCSD, right? So the organizations and individuals with concerns about environmental and social issues to support sustainable development, but disagree with the outlook of international economic and organizations, right? So the sustainable development so it has three pillars of sustainability. So first one is environment. What is that? First one is environment. And second one is economy. And third one is society. So these three pillars are very important in this sustainability. So environmental sustainability. So what is this environmental sustainability? So the ecological integrity is maintain all of its environmental systems are kept in balance while natural resources within them are consumed by humans at a rate where they are able to replenish themselves, right? So that is the environmental sustainability. And economic sustainability means so human communities. So human communities across the globe, right? Across the globe, so those are able to maintain their independence and have access to the resources so that they require in financial and also other to meet the needs, right? So the economic systems are intact and activities are available to everyone, such as secure sources of livelihood. And lastly, social sustainability. So the social sustainability, it is a universal human rights and basic necessaries. So those are attainable by all people who have access to enough resources in order to keep their families and communities healthy and secure, right? So the healthy communities have just leaders who endure personal labor and cultural rights. So those are respected and all people are protected from discrimination, right? So, so why sustainability are very important? So because the motivations behind sustainability are often complex and personal and diverse. So it is unrealistic to create a list of results. So why so many individuals, groups, and communities, so those are working towards this goal, right? So for most of the people, sustainability comes down to the kind of future we are leaving for the next future generation, right? So the sustainability as a value is shared by many individuals and organizations who demonstrate this value in their policies, right? So the everyday activities and behavior. So these individuals have played a major role in developing our current environmental and social circumstances. So the people of today, along with future generations, must create solutions in ad-hoc, right? So in this, the weakness and limitations to this model. So what is the weakness and limitations? You see here. Weakness. So the view limits means the view that there is a separation in even autonomy of the society, economy, and environment. So from each other, it takes a compartmentalized approach to sustainable development, right? And, and also the separation neglects the connection between the economy and society and the environment, right? And also it leads to an assumption that will capital, it can replace or substitute for natural resources and systems and completely ignores the fact that any amount of afforestation or plantations cannot substitute for of a forest and so genetic engineering. So it cannot replace biodiversity and there is no technology that can reconstruct the atmosphere or ozone hole. Sorry, ozone layer, right? So hole in the ozone layer. That will be, right? And weakness in limitations and also is such a sectorial approach. So a sectorial approach can divert attention from asking questions so that are important to get into the core of sustainable development, such as those about the nature of our society. So what the policy priorities are and how decisions are made and involve interest, right? And also the wider social issues. The wider social issues often fall off the sustainable development agenda, right? And also environmental economist discussions. So about the environmental impacts of business such as pollution, biodiversity loss, and also degradation of habitats as unpaid cost or externalities, right? And so in such cases, how can the corporate pay for the cost, or to whom should it to be paid? So this is also weak in this sustainability model. And also one more, so it is impossible to imagine money compensating an organism or humans for loss of habitat on which they depend. Right? And also, there are many social costs so that business cannot pay for, such as unemployment and a lost culture and damage to health. Also, a more realistic presentation of the relationship between, you see here, what is that? Environment, society, and economy. Right? So this relation between this society, economy, and environment. So these are of the economy nested within society, which in turn is nested within the environment. So the human society depends on environment, although in contrast, the environment would continue without society. So the economy depends on the society and environment actually exist without the economy, right? So the effect of pretending that the economy and society, those are each a unified whole, is to ignore diversity and differences and instead gives precedence to the dominant parts, right? So this is the sustainability and sustainability development. And the next, Just wait, I will tell next lesson. Now, so the globalization and its impact on the environment. The globalization had far-reaching effects on our lifestyle, right? So it has led to faster access to technology and it is improved communication and innovation, apart from playing an important role in bringing people of different cultures together, right? So it has uses a new era in economic prosperity, and it has opened up a vast channels of development. So, however, so this globalization has also created in some areas of concern and prominent among this is the impact that it has had on the environment. So, So how does globalization affect society? So the world has become more connected than ever before to the increase in technological advancements and economic integrations. So the advanced economies are formed as domestic business transform into international ones and further contribute to the spread of technology around the world, right? So there are several benefits of globalization, such as increased international trade, right? And cooperation and less international aggressions. So the social globalization, the sharing of ideas and information between countries has led to innovation in the medical, technological, and also environmental preservation industries. So additionally, the globalization has improved the quality of life in several developing nations, right? So this includes implementing efficient transportation systems and ensuring accessibility to services such as education and also healthcare, right? So however, the globalization can also have negative impacts, right? Negative impacts or negative effects on society, such as increased income inequality and substandard working conditions in developing countries. So those are that produce goods for wealthier nations. So the income inequality is directly related to globalization as it further increases the gap between more advanced and developing areas of a nation. So as a result, it can also increase the risk of societal violence, right? So what are the effects of this globalization and this environment? So first is first one is increased transport of goods. So one of the primary result of globalization is that it opens business up to new markets in which they can sell goods and source labor and raw materials and also components, right? So both of these relatives, it means finished products travel further now than even before, potentially halfway around the globe. So in the past years, products were more likely to be produced and sold and consumed more locally. So this increased transport of goods, it can impact the environment in several ways. Those are increasing, you see, increased emissions, right? Increased emissions. So increased emissions means the further the product travels, the more fuel is consumed, right? So and it is a greater level of greenhouse gases, right? Greenhouse gases emissions is produced in the atmosphere. And according to a report by the International Transport Forum, the CO2 emissions from transport will increase how much? 16% by the year of 2050, right? 2050. So these emissions contribute to pollution and climate change and also ocean acidification around the world. And it have been shown to significantly impact biodiversity. So this is the increased emissions. And second one is habitat destruction. So the transportation, especially when land-based requires infrastructure like what is that? Roads, right? Roads and bridges, right? So the development of such infrastructure, it can lead to issues including habitat loss and pollution. So the more ships that travel by sea, the greater the chances for major oil spills or leaks that damage the delicate marine environment. And third one is in this what is that? Invasive species. Invasive species. So every shipping container and vessel presents an opportunity for living organisms from plants to animals and to fungus to each a right to a new location where it can become invasive and grow without checks and balances. So that might be present in its natural environment, right? And in this, so this is increasing transport. In this second is economic specialization. Economic specialization. So one of the overlooked side effect of this globalization is that it allows nations in geographical regions. So that is to focus on their economic strengths, contenting, knowing they can turn to trading partners for goods they don't produce themselves. So this economic specialization often boosts productivity and efficiency. So unfortunately, the over specialization can threaten forest health and it lead to serious environmental issues, often in the form of habitat loss and deforestation of natural resources overuse, right? So, for example, you see illegal deforestation in Brazil or in our country. So due to an increase in the country's cattle ranching operations, which require significant land for grazing. And also another example is overfishing in coastal areas. So that is also include Southeast Asia, which has significantly contributed to reduced fish populations and oceanic populations. Another example is over dependence on cash crops, so such as coffee, cocoa, and various fruits, which has contributed to habitat loss, especially in tropical climate. So it's worth considering that globalization has allowed some nations to specialize in producing various energy commodities such as oil, natural gas, and timber, right? So the nations that depend on energy sales to fund a large portion of their national budgets, along with those that note energy security. Right? Is that energy security as a priority? So those are more likely to take intervening actions in the market in the form of subsidies or laws that make transitioning to renewable energy that is more difficult. Right? So the main byproduct of these energy sources, it comes in the form of, what is that? Greenhouse gas emissions, right? So it is significantly contribute to global warming and climate change, right? So first is over and second one is over. Now, third one. So third one is decreased biodiversity. Biodiversity. So increased greenhouse gas emissions and ocean acidifications, deforestations, right? So, and climate change and the introduction of invasive species all work to reduce biodiversity around the globe, right? So, according to the Worldwide Fund's recent living planet report. So the population in that report, the population size of all organisms, including mammals and birds, fishes, and also amphibians and reptiles. So these have decreased how much percent? 68%. So 68% since 1970. So the Latin America and Africa, so these two countries are rapidly developing regions important to global trade, which have seen disproportionate levels of biodiversity loss, especially among environmentally sensitive fish, reptiles, and amphibians, right? So while this decrease in biodiversity, it has many causes. It's widely believed that the issues listed above have contributed in part, right? And fourth one is increased awareness. So while many of globalization's environmental effects have been negative, and its increase has heightened environmental awareness, it is worldwide. So the greater connectivity and higher rates of international travel, it have made it easier than ever for individuals to see the effects of deforestation and habitat loss and climate change on the environment. So this, in turn, it has contributed to new laws and regulations and processes so that limit negative effects, right? So the role of the globalization has allowed society to enjoy many benefits, including increased global cooperation and reduced risk of global conflict, and also lower prices for goods and commodities. So unfortunately, it is also led to serious negative effects on the environment because it is not feasible for globalization to end our rewards. So it's likely the situation will worsen until nations and governing bodies and other organizations are compelled to implement laws and regulations so that limit negative effects, right? So, while globalization has benefited humanity in some ways, it has also caused pollution, damaged ecosystems, and contributed to climate change, and also disproportionately harmed individuals, people, and communities of color. So, the globalization affects environmental justice by creating bigger issues that activities and politicians and ordinary citizens must work together to confront, right? So globalization effects on pollution. So in many areas, people have suffered serious environmental harm because of globalization, right? So according to Harvard Business School, the example. So that is one way that globalization impacts the environment is through pollution. Pollution caused by increased transportation of goods from one country to another country or another port, right? So this is the biodiversity impact of environment, right? So this is the a consequence of globalization on the environment topic. So, okay. So this class is over now. So any doubts, please ask me. Okay. Right.